So Juliette, tell me, when I first muted the idea of working with me, how did you feel about that?
Oh, that's a
Where
good
were
question.
you in your life?
Actually, I think it was in 2020, and I was in between what I call between the two worlds, because I spent 2 decades in Ireland where I didn't feel like I belonged, or it was just like incorrect environment to me. And we were already for a few years preparing to move, and we came to this conclusion that we have to move back to Estonia, where I'm from, Tallinn. It's just the place that ticked all the boxes energetically and everything. And what was happening at that point is we thought we already brought half of our stuff in September 2019 to Tallinn. And then we thought by Christmas, we're going to move. But by Christmas, there were some delays. And then the delays went into 2020. And then, as we all know, in March 2020, the pandemic hit. And it was crazy because the pandemic hit, we had this issue with the property that we had that needed to be released before we could move. And that was the big problem holding us there, with this house. And I always hated that house. It's so funny. I always hated that house because it was cold and damp and, but it was our home too. And there was all these things were just wrong for me in Ireland. And all of a sudden we have a glimpse of a future that we can move. We're even taking inspired action and all that. And then this pandemic. And I had the feeling that I need to just wait, but that wasn't here and in my heart. But I think that there was a lot of things that were happening that I didn't know from the energy level, because in about May, I started really suffering with horrendous pain in my coccyx. Yeah. So and I thought maybe I sat on a bench somewhere, in a hard bench, but and I mentioned it to you. I think we had a coaching call or something, and I mentioned it to you. And you said, Juliette, this is something else. So would you allow me to, tune in? Would you like to work on this? And I think that's how we started.
Because if you think about what you were going through, it was all in your foundations and you were just stuck.
Yes. Oh, that feeling of stuckness. Yeah. And I felt so stuck for so many years, but that was when the whole of the stuck, finally I saw how I can move. And then I was still stuck. And that created this huge issue. It's like was the final kind of drop.
And do you remember what the penny drop was about, what the actual issue was underneath all that?
No, I remember, I know that I was thinking about, obviously, how are things going to be when I move. I left Tallinn, Estonia in 1999. So I just burnt all the bridges and, in a good way, I was not going to come back. So I didn't stay in touch with my old friends, I had no connections. It was literally starting from scratch. And I had a lot of insecurity about how is it going to work. I'm fluent in English and I love my life is in English, even though my first language is Russian, but I don't speak Estonian. And I remember in the 90s, before I left, it was a big issue. If you didn't speak Estonian, you couldn't get a job. The job for me is not a problem because I have a business, but it's this whole thing about feeling ashamed that you can't communicate, which was huge before. And now it was all like, is it going to be ahead of me again? How am I going to deal with this? How much effort do I need to put in to learn and speak that language fluently? Do I need to do it? What about my old friends? Will they accept me the way I am? I'm completely different to the stories that they know about me. I'm completely different person, so is it even like they never stayed in touch with me either? So are they going to be happy to see me, or what's going to happen? And I had all these insecurities. Looking back, some of them really were founded, right? But, this kind of, it was all these things, were very deeply bothering me at that time.
And how did you actually come through and feel better after working with some of the things that we did?
Well, there was a couple of things. There was a couple of breakthroughs. One of the breakthroughs was, I remember one of the sessions, we discovered that there's a lot of these things. These are the thoughts, but there's a lot of things that are connected to my sister's baby, who she had a child while I was in immigration. And I always had this obsessive attraction to this child. But every time we went there to visit, the child was literally rejecting me. I felt so bad. It didn't want me around. You could just see, like, it just wasn't having it.
Very
you know,
painful.
It was very, very painful to me. And so I never thought about it. So it wasn't on a thinking level. But when you were working with me, there was definitely an issue with this, like, what is it going to be the new life? And this baby rejecting me, there was a lot of pain to do with that. Okay. And I remember that was one of the things that we were working through. And I will be honest with you, that doesn't bother me at all. And what happened there is that when I moved, I had a different perspective. I just felt differently. I didn't feel so much need that I need from this child to accept me. I just
anxious and everything that goes with that.
Yeah. There was no, I wouldn't be like pestering him for love, basically, like going after him. I just ignored him in a way. And to be honest with you, we have never built relationships with this child, maybe in the future, but so maybe it was never meant to be. And I was just this whole feeling of rejection. And this is something that is very familiar to me. And growing up and, you know, often being rejected by friends, with people that I fell in love with. So this loving someone and being rejected or being not accepted, it was a big trauma. It really was. Your
foundations.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. And so
you were going back to your home place as well.
That's it. Yeah. So I was going back to a place where there was a lot of trauma from my past, you know, and
lovely.
And the other thing I remember as well, with the house that, as I mentioned, you know, it was damp and cold. And I remember, because I'm doing online marketing and I'm working in this cold office. There's 55 layers on me. I'm trying to go live while I'm shaking from the cold, even though the radiator just beside me, you know, it's just such horrible environment. And I was always saying, even on my live videos, if I can do it this way, you guys, you should all do it, you know. But there was so much pain. And you said to me one thing before we moved. You said you have to forgive yourself, and you have to apologize to this house. You have to write a letter to this house, because it gave you home. And actually it really did. And now I'm looking back at some photographs. Sometimes we had this beautiful living room with loads of plants and, you know, ambient lights, and we spent so much happy times in that house. In all fairness, it was a home for 15 years. And I sat down and I wrote everything I felt without any blame or anything. And I wrote this letter of apology. And that was just, we were getting rid of our stuff. We got rid of like 90% of our stuff. So there was this big skip outside, literally the last day when we were leaving from the house. And I, you know, wrote a letter and I just put it in that skip.
Oh, that's lovely.
And it was taken away.
I love it when people do their homework.
I wasn't doing the homework properly. I have to mention this. I was telling you, because you were telling me to tap, and I wasn't really familiar with tapping. And so I tap on the session with you, and I forget. And I'd never tap outside that. And so I'd say there would be more, but we're actually not addressing the elephant in the room. When we started working on this, we had a couple of sessions, and all of a sudden, big shifts started happening with our move. We started getting important phone calls that were on hold, and the process moved on. Remember, and the process started moving on. And I remember getting on our sessions and saying, Louise, can you do it? Like, you know, we have a go ahead on this. We have a go ahead on this. We have a go ahead on this. And so that's how this whole thing about forgiving the house and leaving the letter in the skip. And we literally got into the car and drove into the sunrise.
I just love how it works.
It was amazing. And then I had one day in a hotel between the two worlds.
Oh.
And that was the day when I applied to contribute to Entrepreneur Magazine online. And they accepted
wow.
me.
Okay, lovely.
I was like, okay, I have to up-level myself. And then I came here, and we still, there was a couple of more things. One of them, couldn't find a place for me to work, because I had my own office, but we downsized.
You anchor yourself anywhere.
Yes. And so I was trying different rooms, and I was unhappy because of that. You know, a lot of things were on hold. And I remember how you were saying to me that you really need to make sure that you have this backing when you're working behind you. And there is a very interesting thing with that, because it's been a long time since. So that was the 2020. I moved in July. So, maybe end of 2020. And I remember how I was sitting in this room, but there was a wall behind me. This is not a wall. This is a green screen with a virtual background, but there was a wall behind me. And I still didn't feel, for some weird reason, connected to myself. And it's only when I got this green screen and I use it for my videos, that's what my business is really like, video. And, that's where the support, now I feel this support, because I also am in control.
In your space.
Yeah, it feels like, so if I'm looking at the screen, I'm forgetting that I'm living in this, it's a living room, office, and the kitchen behind me. If I loaded this down, there's a kitchen behind me and the corridor that doesn't have a door. So it's like all open space. Sometimes it feels like you don't have your own space. But when I have this on, magic happens. All of a sudden I have this, my cocoon. I feel very supported. I'm in control what background I put at the back. So there could be like symbolic representation of this support. Depends on what I want. And I really feel like I just get this. But there was one poignant moment, because you recommended this, and I kept thinking, how can I get this done, that it works for me? But there was one more thing that I wanted to say. Remember when I didn't cook for a while, and I don't cook generally.
I do.
My husband cooks, and we came here, and the produce here is so much nicer than in Ireland. It tastes like proper veg. The veg tastes like, not like paper. And so we were making the salads and everything. And there was this one day, and I cooked a chicken and something veg, and I sent you a picture, said, Louise, I started cooking, and you said, I see your tail is wagging again. And I realized that my tail, you actually said, I think you said that in Ireland, that the pain is in my bone, because the tail's not wagging. It's stuck. And it was amazing, and all the work we did. I particularly loved the part where we were visualizing the different feelings that were there and that were stuck, and not just allowing, not just thinking about them. You. Yes, and making it, and actually then making it dissipate. So actually imagining it as an object was so powerful for my brain, and what followed then, all these little breakthroughs. It was really amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. There's one thing that I want to remind you of is, remember when you were planted now in your new home, some of your energies were still left behind in Ireland. So we had to sort of plant you into Estonia. It's like your energies were dissipated.
I do remember that. I do remember that. There was because we assume that we'll move, and in 5 minutes we are settled, and the new happily ever after just starts, but it doesn't. It took me over a year to settle, and I still feel like it's been now almost 2 years, and it's only now that it's kind of, I feel settled.
We really feel anchored. Yes. Well, Juliette, thank you so much for coming on and telling me about all this, and my viewers.
I'm so excited. I'm really grateful that I had this experience with you, because I do understand about the energy, but in the busy life, sometimes you forget that you can actually get help.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it's impossible sometimes to do it on your own. Exactly. And it's impossible to do it on your own, because it's like with everything. We're too close to it to see it. We're too close to it. So with your help, and you intuitively, tuning into me, and then you will say things to me that on the surface level, they're kind of shockingly like, this is not what we were talking about. We were talking about getting stuck in the house. You're talking about a baby. And yet it has pretty much everything to do with it. And so these little pains, like, I never thought that the back pain in my coccyx, it has anything to do with this whole, foundations not being solid or being, unfounded.
Yes.
that moment, or feeling like I am being ripped out of the ground because I have to move to a new life. And I've done this before, so I know that it takes time. And
and one
that
doesn't
was
have
amazing.
to go through it for so long. One can just, just do it quickly. But there is a bit of work underneath that has to be done. So yes,
it's true. I think we're just conditioned. Society says suck it up and get through it, and and that kind of thinking. But there is the invisible world that we don't see.
Yes, because a lot of times people don't realize that it's the energy gets affected first before it hits your physical body.
Oh, but it's so true. I really testify. I even with my I need a lot of creativity for my business because I have to produce a lot of content, and I know that there will be weeks that I have nothing to give, and it's not. I stopped self-shaming because I know this is where this invisible world is at play. So your body is kind of resting, and this is interesting that at the end of that there will be always some sort of physical. Something comes out, something grows on my face, or but there'll be like a physical adjustment, which sometimes can be a pain. So what we went when we were working together through that's a huge change. So of course the body went into this pain.
Poor little body.
Yes, yes. but again, I could have just assumed that I have a problem that I need, medical help with, and maybe I would have gotten that help. But would it solve the problem?
The underlying issue would still be there.
Oh, exactly. That means that it would come back. That just means that no matter, and it probably would cause me, and especially with that kind of pain I had, great embarrassment to go to that kind of doctor checking out, your backside. So I am glad I didn't have to do that. And I swear there is no pain. There is no pain, and it hasn't been for a year. And it took time. I can see now it took time. So it's not like we had a session, pain is gone. That doesn't work. I think a lot of people have a lot of these kind of expectations. That doesn't work. I can see looking back how much we did our clearing. We're working together over time. And then it also takes a little bit more processing. And it's so important. That's what I'm just so happy.
Layers.
Yes, exactly. It's just the work continues. As you kickstart it, but the work in itself, this renewal process just keeps going. And that's brilliant. That's why it's very handy how we worked. And we did this occasion, like we did sessions at a set times. You'd be reaching out to me, okay, we do a session, because one session is not enough. It's a process that you need to, there is a little bit of processing, then you need to pick it in.
Yes.
And that really helped me 100%. I don't think that was one-off.
If one does the whole thing in one time, it's too much for the body to handle, and the mind and the emotions, and gentle, and then it's more long.
I don't think it's even possible to do it in one go. It's like, that whole layer, like onion analogy. Because everything in life is an onion. You have an issue, you peel off one layer, there's going to be still a layer of that issue in a different
subjects around it. So yes,
exactly. And it's just impossible. So I'm really, after I worked with you, I realized how sometimes, if when you want to just a quick fix or a quick help, it's just such a wrong mentality to have. Such a wrong mentality. You need to fix yourself,
been working with me for a while, we can do like a quick fix. You just
that's different because you're already working.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're already working together. Exactly.
Lovely.
So thank you so much. I'm just so grateful that we did this.
Thank you for coming on. Bye.